recording in progress. There we go. So good to see you. We're going to begin today with some recitation of the prayers, and then in lieu of the long meditation that we usually do, I'm going to give an oral transmission of the long Dharani. You know what a Dharani is, don't you? Sort of what we sometimes think of them as mantras, but it's a longer form of what is sometimes called amitayos, but is actually a slightly different. We'll talk about that when it goes on. So, Karen, if you'd like to put up the prayers, which I think everyone knows by now. Sangye churang soki chognam la changchu baru dagni kyapsu chi dagi chunen gipe sognam ki drola penche sangye drupa sho. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. See if you can generate that remembering consciousness. Fear of cyclic existence, fear of not being able to help sentient beings without the guidance of the Mahayana Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Through the collections I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit migrating beings. Sangye chodang soki chognam la Changshu Badu Dagni Kyapsu Chi Dagi Chunen Gipe Sognam Gi Drola Penche Sangye Drupa Sho. By offering this ground, anointed with perfume and strewn with flowers. So that can mean either when you have the mandala base, you actually strew some rice on the surface of it to represent the flowers. Perhaps you perfume it beforehand, or here just visualizing the ground strewn with flowers and perfumed, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun and the moon, visualized as a Buddha realm. May all migrators enjoy a pure realm. O holy and perfect pure Lama, from the clouds of compassion that form in the skies of your Dharmakaya wisdom, please release a rain of vast and profound Dharma, precisely in accordance with the needs of those to be subdued. Idam Guru Rana Mandalakam Niryatayami. Okay. So let me take a look here. I get this. Dharma Saladius. Okay. So the practitioner, Mintu, who's here, my fellow MIT graduate, has requested the oral transmission of the mantra of Amitayus, which he supplied from a book from the Malaysian benefactor Lillian Tu, which has some small errors in the sort of like the parsing of the Dharani. So what this is usually is considered to be the long Dharani or the long mantra of Amitayus. Do you know who Amitayus is, Snehi?
I think he's the Bodhisattva of long life.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a Buddha of long life. Yeah.
Buddha of long life.
So there's some little bit confusion about that. So this is actually the the Longdarani of a Buddha called immeasurable longevity and wisdom, aparamita ayurjnana. So, and I'll explain a little bit from the commentary in, where is this here? In the translation in the 84,000.co, 84,000 committee was set up to translate all of the Kangyur and Tengyur, and they have a translation of this particular sutra, which is a very, very famous sutra and is often recited when the lamas make divinations and mows. This is one that is recited either yourself many times, or you engage a house or the whole monastery to recite it a certain number of times to overcome obstacles to your life, and for other kinds of problems, when you have problems with in your own life with emotions and so forth. So this is very, very common and very famous in Tibet. Let me read a little couple of selected passages from the commentary notes that they have on the 84,000 website. And I would suggest if you could go there and take a look at this. The sutra itself is not that long, might take, maybe 8 or 10 minutes to recite completely, even less. But it has been misattributed in various ways. Let me read a little bit of the comments in this excellent translation on 84,000. The name of the Buddha who is the subject of this sutra has 3 forms of different lengths. The shortest version of his name is Aparamita Ayus. So do you know what Aparamita means? Paul, you're our Sanskrit expert here. Oh, John's also here. Paul?
Yeah, paramita would be unlimited, I guess.
Yeah, unlimited or immeasurable, something like that. So it would be the Buddha of immeasurable life, Aparamita Ayus. Ayus means lifespan. The medium length version is Aparamita Ayurjnana, immeasurable longevity and wisdom. And you may remember from the White Tara mantra when we say Om Tari Tutari Turi, Mama Ayur Jnana, Ayur Puni Jnana, Ayur Puni Jnana. Ayur means lifespan. Puni means merit, like when we talk about the collections of merit and wisdom. Jnana means wisdom, exalted wisdom. So here is the longer name is Aparamita Ayurjnana. So that means immeasurable, what did we say, longevity and wisdom, and figures in the title of this sutra. The longest form of the name also in the sutra is, if you like this, Aparamita Ayurjnana Suvishchita Tejo Rajaya, the blazing king who is completely certain of immeasurable longevity and wisdom. So the shortest name, Aparamita Ayus, is translated into Tibetan as Sepakme. So that's what usually Tibetan monks would think of as being Amutayus, Sepakme. Or in full, Sepaktu Mepa. So Se means lifespan, Paktu means immeasurable, or measurable, Me means makes it immeasurable. Sepak Me, however, is also the Tibetan translation of Amitayus, an alternative form of the name of the Buddha, Amitabha, found in many scriptures. So this is a crucial point. These 2 Buddhas, who seem to have been originally quite distinct, are often identified with each other, not only in Tibetan Buddhism, but also in the Chinese and Japanese traditions. And the overlap of their names in Tibetan is therefore not only is not the only factor at work, but partly as a result of back translation from Tibetan into Sanskrit. Back translation means, you have the Tibetan translation, and then you try to translate it back into Sanskrit. Aparamita jnana, Ayurjnana has become commonly known as Amitayus, a name which makes him difficult to distinguish from the Amitayus who is Amitabha. So this particular Buddha is not Amitayus, who is the long life version of Amitabha. This is slightly different. Aparamita Ayurjnana is therefore presented here as quite distinct from Amitayus or Amitabha, who resides in the Sukhavati realm in the western direction. So usually when people pray to be born in Amitabha's Pure Land, that's in the western direction. Where's west? West. Sukhavati. So this is different. This particular Buddha's pure realm is in the zenith, in the upward direction. However, perhaps adding to the confusion, even the text of this present sutra includes rebirth in Sukhavati among its results that will be obtained by those who write the sutra down and recite it. This can presumably be explained by the fact that Sukhavati, described in several Kangyur sutras and in many prayers, was the realm in which Mahayana Buddhists predominantly and almost generically prayed to be reborn. So it goes into a little detail of the transmission into Tibet. I received the transmission of this mantra from Lama Zopa Rinpoche, who, when it's a collection of mantras in Bodh Gaya in 1982, with Lama Yeshe present, sort of guiding things. This was one of the great mantras, and one that I've recited for many years since then, so 1982 until now. So let me just say one other thing here. There's a note 53 in the commentary on this sutra in the 84,000 site. There is a difference here in the repeated dharani between the version in the Derge and other Kangyur's Tantra section and the otherwise identical duplicate in the Compendium of Dharanis, which is one of the famous volumes that has a big, thick volume of Dharanis of various deities. One of the versions, the version that we have is what's called the 3 Om version, because you'll see I think, Doris, if you put up the PDF if you take a look at the PDF in the chat, let's see here, long Dharani, you'll see that there is a certain Om has been, I put in bold the syllable Om, which comes 3 times. There's another version of the mantra that comes just twice. So at any rate, I'm going to give the oral transmission of this. So again, let's try to set a special Mahayana motivation again by saying the same prayer that we did at the beginning. Sangye chodang soki chognam la jangchu baru dagni kapsu chi dagi chunyen gi pe sognam ki rola penchu sangye drupa shok. Sangye chodang soki chognam la jangchu baru dagni kapsu chi dagi chunyen gi pe sognam ki rola penchu sangye drupa shok. Sangye chodang soki chognam la jangchu badu dagni kapsu chi dagi chunyen gi pe sognam ki drola penche sangye drupa sho. So if you have that, if you see the text in front of you, you'll see that in the, let's see here, the third and fourth lines, at the end of the third line where it says aparamita punye jnana samparo pachite. Some of the other versions have aparamita ayur punye, but they are said to be corrupt. Also, in the first line of this, aparamita ayur jnana suvinishchita tejo rajaya. Tejo means in Tibetan ziji, sort of radiance or brilliance or something like that. Rajaya means king, so it's sometimes translated as the blazing king who is completely certain, suvinishchita, of immeasurable longevity and wisdom. So I'm going to read this 3 times. If you can imagine it entering into your heart, and the first time, second time, stabilizing that, third time, making it very stable. Om Namo Bhagavate Aparamita Ayurgyana Suvinishchita Tejo Rajaya Tathagataya Arhate Samyak Sambudaya Tadyata Om Puni Puni Maha Puni Aparamite Puni Jnana Sambaro Pajite Om Sarva Samskara Pada Shuta Dharmate Gaganasa Mudgate Spabhava Vishute Mahanaya Paravaya Yesvaha. That's first recitation. And interspersed, I'll just read you the tentative translation of that, mostly from the 84,000 site, just changed a few words. Om, homage to the Bhagavan, blazing king, completely certain of immeasurable longevity and wisdom, Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly awakened Buddha. It is thus, Tadyata, Om, merit, great merit, immeasurable merit, the one who has gathered the accumulations of immeasurable merit and wisdom. Om, the true nature that is completely pure of all mental events, all samskara, the one who has gone to the pinnacle of space, who is completely pure in nature, whose entourage is of the great way, svaha. So that's the meaning of this mantra tentatively. Second recitation. Om Namo Bhagavate Aparamita Ayurgyana Suvinishchita Tejo Rajaya Tathagataya Arhate Samyak Sambudaya Tadyata Om Puni Maha Puni Aparamite Puni Jnana Sambaro Pachite Om Sarva Samskara Para Shuddha Dharmate Gaganasan Mudgate Spabhava Vishuddhe Mahanaya Paravaraye Svaha. Second recitation. Third recitation. Om Nama Bhagavate Aparamita Ayurgyana Suvinishchita Tejo Rajaya Tathagataya Arhate Samyak Sambudaya Tadyata Om Puni Maha Puni Aparamite Puni Jnana Samparo Pajite Om Sarva Samskara Para Shuddha Dharmate Gaganasan Mudgate Spabhava Vishuddhe Mahanaya Parevaraye Svaha. I think that you've received the oral transmission of this long Dharani that is praised in Tibet and is recited. Usually the monks in the various living quarters would recite it upon request many times. Even the sutra that is associated with it. So you you've created the karma now in reciting it for it to be more karmically potent when you do recite it. And because my pronunciation, although it's probably Maybe as good as some Tibetan lamas of the Sanskrit, maybe better, because they haven't recited things or know the Sanskrit language that well. Now that John Campbell has received the oral transmission, I'll ask him to recite it in Tibetan from this version, which he helpfully tried to do earlier today with another version. Sometimes people parse the mantra in the first line where it says Su Vinish Chita Tejo Rajaya. They've got Su Vinish Chita Te. They take the Te of Tejo. Jora Jaya. That's how the booklet that Mintu supplied from what's her name? Lillian too. Lillian, what's her name? Lillian Mintu?
Yeah, it's Lillian too. She was a disciple of Lama Zopa.
Yeah. What's her name? Lillian too, is it?
Yeah, Lillian too.
Lillian
Yeah.
too. She's very famous in Malaysia as a feng shui teacher and so forth, and follower of Lama Zopa Rinpoche. So she put that volume of mantras together. So there they've got it sounding like Jora Jaya, which misses the meaning. That's Suvinish Chita Tejo Rajaya. Rajaya means king. Tejo means glorious or blazing and so forth. So you have that sheet. So let's dedicate the merits of that. Due to these virtues, listening, receiving this oral transmission, may I quickly become a Buddha in order to benefit all migrating beings. Okay. So how are we doing? We okay? Any questions about the oral transmission?
So it's not the same Buddha as Amitayus.
So yeah, it's different. So Amitayus, it could be that when the Buddhists, when Tibetans say Amitayus, they're actually referring to this Buddha. But this Buddha's pure realm is in the upward direction, in the zenith. Zenith and nadir, when you talk about the 10 directions, north, south, east, west, and northwest, southeast, so forth, makes 8. Then you have the zenith and the nadir. We say the 10 directions. This Buddha's pure land is in the zenith, whereas Amitabha and Amitayus pure lands are in Sukhavati in the western direction. So it's definitely different but related. And this is the one that is often assumed to be, when one talks about the long Dharani of Amitayus, it's actually this Dharani that is being referred to, or you can say mantra. John, what do you think?
I have, Venerable George, thank you so much. I have a question among my Tibetan friends and teachers. I've heard referred to the Hla Tse Sum, I think I'm saying, is that, or is it Tse La Sum? But the three sometimes grouped together, is it Amitayus and White Para? Well, my question is, maybe I'm not saying it correctly, but Ha Tse Tsum, does that ring a bell? And if so, would you say if this is one of the Tathagatas included in that?
Yes. This is
The medicine.
So when they talk about the 3 long life deities, you see in many tankas at the top, or sometimes the whole tanka is devoted to the 3 long life deities. So sometimes White Tara is central, and there's Amitayus and Ushnisha Vijaya, or what is it in Tibetan? Paul Vishnisha Vijaya, what is it?
Oh gosh.
Sup-
Suktor Namgyalma? Something like that?
something like that. So those are the three long life deities that are most practiced, and they're centered as John was asking. They have a name for these three. Sometimes they're the main subjects of a tanka. Sometimes they're actually painted in the top or in the bottom for auspiciousness. We've received, and we've talked about White Tara before, when one of our classmates was passing away. We went through that in the mantra of White Tara, which was it Om Tari Tu Tari Turi? Mama means my, Mama Ayur Puni Jnana Pushtim Kuri Isoa. So may my Ayur Puni Jnana, may my lifespan, merit, and wisdom be increased. So that's a common theme throughout all of them. So the Amutayus is also a long life deity by himself that's related with Amitabha in the Western Pure Land. But the Dharani that is particularly recited for long life is this Dharani, the Dharani of immeasurable longevity and wisdom that we have just here now. Okay, so I would suggest if you have time and interest to take a look at the translation on the 84,000.co. So you can write the number 84000, no comma between, to separate 84 and 00, 8400.co, and you can go to this, the long Dharani of immeasurable longevity and wisdom, the sutra of this deity, and you can find out a lot of details about this. Okay, so I wanted to read, just as an additional motivation today, a page from Geshe Zopa's, the 5th volume in Geshe Zopa's commentary to the Lanrim Chemo. You'll understand here. Geshe was saying, this was during the summer courses, you were receiving these teachings in order to understand the supreme wisdom that removes all misery and its causes. I, Geshe Zopa, shall do my best to explain Tsong Khapa's great insight chapter. So that was what we say, Laktong Chemo. So in the Lanrim Chemo, the various, this person of beginning scope, intermediate scope, great scope, even some introductory chapters at the end. The last section on the perfections of wisdom, of concentration and wisdom, are called Laktong Chemo. I shall do my best to explain Tsong Khapa's great insight chapter. However, I do not see myself as someone who really knows the meaning of all the quotations he has collected. Please do not think that I am omniscient and you are stupid. In this commentary, I share what I have understood through the teachings I have received, and only through my own studies. I have the lineage of transmission of the complete Lanrim Chemo. However, I have not heard a detailed explanation of this section on special insight. And here's the point I wanted to make. It is rare to receive an extensive teaching on wisdom. So it's very rare, for instance, to receive a detailed teaching on the on the Gompa Rabsel. Even in Tibet and India, a great number of scholars and teachers with the capacity to benefit and train others teach only the first half of the Lanrim Chemo in detail. Once they get to the insight chapter, where the subject is shunyata, they go through it very quickly. Perhaps even some of these great lamas do not understand it. So although I received some teachings on it and developed a deeper understanding of it through debate and studying various commentaries, I too enjoy the opportunity to further chew these hard bones. So the theme Geshe used many times, to further chew these hard bones. Some of these bones are very hard indeed, and you may not be able to swallow them right now or chew them, but at least you will know that they are there. Even if you do not understand the ideas perfectly, you are trying, you are attempting. This is a rare and excellent opportunity. So I wanted to share that with you because that follows also for our text that we're studying right now. It was rare even in the Geshe sections. The Larampa section would study this text. The classes that went for the highest Geshe degree, but the lower Geshes might be familiar with it, reading it very, very quickly, but they wouldn't go into detail about it. It would be in the post-Geshe studies, once they'd gotten their Geshe degrees and they were debating with one another over tea or something, where they would have go into this in greater detail like we're trying to do now. Okay, so just some kind of encouragement for chewing these dry bones. Okay, so we are at a point in our text in Jeffrey Hopkins' translation. We just finished this on page 245. Because it can be proven that until this is extinguished, the view of the transitory as inherently existent I and mine is also not extinguished. In Jimpa's translation, it says, since it can be shown that as long as ignorance, grasping intrinsic existence does not cease, identity view too will not come to an end. Does anyone know what page that is in the written edition, in case someone doesn't have the electronic?
Bottom of 240.
240 in Jimpa's written edition. Okay. So here we're investigating about Jikta, Jiksoklatawa, Satkaya Dristi in Sanskrit. So Thupten Jimpa's translation of Gompa Rabsel says, since it can be shown that as long as ignorance, grasping intrinsic existence, or grasping to exist, intrinsic existence, does not cease, the identity view, that is the view of the transitory collection, will also not come to an end. This leads to the conclusion that such ignorance is indeed an afflicted ignorance. This is crucial to understand how to define Chandrakirti's unique presentation of the afflictions, or as Jeffrey translated that phrase, that paragraph. Because it can be proven that until, he says, because it can be proven, Jimba says, since it can be shown, because it can be proven that until this is extinguished, the view of the transitory collection, and maybe as Geshe Zopa's translation preference in Lanrim Chemo was the perishable collection. Maybe that's a little bit better translation of Jik in Jiksoklatawa, perishable, rather than transitory. Both can work. The view of the perishable collection, view of the transitory collection, or identity view. Because it can be proven that until this is extinguished, the view of the transitory as inherently existent I and mine is also not extinguished. What is that saying? Until you get rid of ignorance grasping to true existence, the view of the transitory collection cannot be extinguished. So they're on an equal level of subtlety. You can't abandon one without abandoning the other. Because of that, it is established that these apprehensions of persons and other phenomena as truly existent are afflicted ignorance. Hence, it is very important to know how to posit the Prasangika unique presentation of the afflictions. Or at this point, Jeffrey was translating afflictions as afflictive emotions, maybe to be more familiar with people. Usually in earlier days when I was studying, we would translate the klesha of the Nyonmong as emotions. But emotion has so many different connotations in English. Rather than calling them emotions, there was the first step to rectify that was to call them afflictive emotions, and then maybe just to call them afflictions. So the klesha or in Nyonmong, we call afflictions nowadays. Okay, so that's where we read that last time. So we're going to continue from there in Jimpa's translation. How are we doing? Everyone together here? Anyone have any question about that so far? Okay. So Jimpa's translation continues. The way other afflictions such as attachment operate on the basis of the delusion grasping at true existence is explained in Aryadeva's 400 stanzas, this text that we've quoted many times, and its commentary. So the commentary is we usually use Chandrakirti's commentary to that. Jeffrey Hopkins translates that on the bottom of 245, the beginning of 246 is, with respect to how other afflictive emotions such as desire and so forth, which is here dochak, which is usually what we translate as attachment. So if I parse that way, with respect to how the other afflictions such as attachment and so forth also operate from where is it? Timuk, moha. Here he says bewilderment. That is a consciousness apprehending true existence. Let us explain this in accordance with Chandrakirti's commentary on the statement in Aryadeva's 400. So the famous quotation in Aryadeva's 400 stanzas is, just like the body faculty in the entire body, just like that, delusion resides in all the afflictions. Or as Jeffrey, so the Tibetan is Lula, Luwang, Jishindu, Timu Kunla, Nagyurte. So Jeffrey translates that as, just as the body sense power, the body faculty, pervades the body, bewilderment abides in all, meaning all the afflictions, as their basis. So what is that saying? So I think we've mentioned this several times over the months and years, maybe even in the last classes. The body faculty is one of the 5 physical faculties, right? We have the eye faculty, which doesn't mean the eyeball. It means the subtle matter, probably in the retina, that acts as an interface for consciousness to enter and for the object of eye consciousness to be present. So it's sort of like that which empowers the eye consciousness to see. It's not possible just to have an eye consciousness and an object. You need to have a faculty that acts as the interface between them. So you have the eye faculty, the ear faculty, which is subtle matter within the little hairs within the cochlea of the ear, I guess. the nose faculty, which is receptors within the certain area of the nose, the tongue faculty, which is a certain area on the tongue where one can taste the various tastes, we're saying, where you can experience the various tastes, and the body faculty. So the body faculty is not limited to one particular place. It's not like just in your fingertips or something. It goes through your entire body, including all of the sense faculties. So it is in the body faculty is present in the eye faculty, the ear faculty, the nose faculty, and the taste faculty. So that's what's meant by just as the body faculty, body sense power, pervades the body, bewilderment or moha, timu, which is a synonym of ignorance that's grasping the true existence, that abides in all the afflictions as their basis. So Jeffrey has that parenthetically there, or bracketed as sort of commentary. Does that first sound familiar? We've talked about that before. Don, do you remember talking about this before? This is not completely out of left field. You're,
I think I have some vague memory of it, but not complete.
okay. I wasn't sure if you were. Okay. So anyone have any question on that? Just that quotation? Yeah, Louise, what do you think?
I just learned something new. You said that the body faculty also resides in the other four faculties
Yes.
as well, the eye contact. Wow. Okay.
It supposedly pervades everything in the body except the nails of your fingers and
Yeah.
toes. And what else? The hairs on your head. Am I like here? Although if you pull out a hair, you might think, oh, it's pervading that too, but that's because you're pulling on you're pulling it out. If you just cut the hair, although a kid who's getting a haircut might cry, if you just cut some hairs, you don't feel anything, right? The body faculty doesn't pervade those. It's also some of the Tibetan texts say it also does not pervade the brain. Whereas I'm told by some surgeons, I don't know if any of you are medically adept. I'm told that there is
Pain
some.
sensors. Yeah.
Who's saying? Who's talking? Oh yeah.
Me. Sorry. I heard there's no pain receptors in the brain. I vaguely remember something like
Yeah,
that.
it's true. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Okay, so that is true. I thought that some people refuted that and said that when they probed in the brain, the people felt some pain, but maybe that's a different thing. Rachel, did you have a take on that?
Yeah, I have the same understanding that there was no pain receptors in the brain, but maybe this is a new thing that I don't know about.
Okay, no, that's the same, that the body faculty pervades everything in the body except the nails, the hair, and the brain. Okay.
But, excuse me, Venerable. It's
Yes.
Diana.
Yes.
We cannot see or hear or use our senses without the corresponding part of the brain. So the visual cortex is considered to be, that's like the software where the eye is the hardware.
Right.
So I don't think you could separate the brain from the sense consciousness.
Right. But here what's said is that, say, for instance, if you touch any part of your body, everywhere, the body sense faculty pervades there. You feel something. Even if you were to probe the sense faculties, not just the eyeball, not just the retina, but the subtle matter that's there, the body faculty also pervades that. That's what's being talked about here. So let me continue with Jimpa's translation of Chandrakirti's commentary on these lines. Remember, Chandrakirti wrote the various commentaries, and he wrote this famous commentary on the 400 stanzas by Aryadeva. So Jimpa translates that as delusion, which Jeffrey translates as bewilderment. This is moha or timug in Tibetan, which is this alternative form of marikpa or avidya, ignorance. So delusion refers to ignorance, for it apprehends things as real. As such, it operates by way of exaggeration, superimposing truly existent natures upon things. Attachment and so on also operate by thoroughly attributing qualities of attractiveness or unattractiveness upon the nature of things imputed by delusion, and as such, they do not operate independently of delusion. Furthermore, they are contingent upon delusion in that delusion is the primary factor. So although there's a nice parsing there by Jimpa of one phrase at the end, I prefer Jeffrey's translation of that. Bewilderment, that's how he likes to translate moha or timug, due to being beclouded. The Tibetan word is mongpa. Jimpa just says ignorance. Because of being sort of obscured with respect to those objects from considering, the Tibetan word is tokpa there, considering them to be truly, that is, truly established, enters into the superimposition that things have their own true identities. What is that saying? So that means that this basic kind of ignorance, the ignorance of true existence, because of being obscured to the actual reality. When we talked about it in the beginning, one of the verses in the Madhyamaka was saying that this basic kind of ignorance is misapprehending phenomena, right? Phenomena appear to it to be truly existent, and it's grasping at that. So it's obscured or beclouded with respect to those objects due to considering them to be truly established, truly existent. That ignorance enters into the superimposition that things have their own true entities. Okay. Jeffrey continues, also desire and so forth operate within the superimposition of features such as beauty and ugliness on just the inherent nature of those things imputed by bewilderment. Hence, they operate non-separately, or you could say they do not operate separately. They operate non-separately. I'm not sure if that would cause Doris and those of you, David, who dislike these double negatives, any problem. I don't like that so much. They operate not separately. I think it's nicer to say they do not operate separately from bewilderment and also depend on bewilderment because bewilderment is just chief. So what's this saying is that the other afflictions besides ignorance, they all depend upon ignorance. Say, for instance, attachment. How does attachment work? Attachment is, let me ask, who knows? Who can explain the generation? Stephen, can you explain the generation of attachment, the mental factor attachment?
Well, that was going to be my question, Venerable George, but I'll give it a shot.
Okay.
So, yeah, so first I guess first we perceive something, and then we, then we conceive of it as inherently existent.
Yeah.
And here's where I'm a little bit shaky is like, where does feeling and discrimination come in? But then we linger on it with what you have often termed inappropriate attention.
Yeah.
And then we superimpose qualities of attractiveness or non-attractiveness on it. And then that's when we generate attachment.
So attachment comes at the end after that.
Yeah.
So yeah, something like that. So when we observe something, depending on our own karma, that appears to us as attractive or unattractive, let's say, or in between, sort of like not particularly attractive or unattractive. Let's say we eat something, it tastes either good or bad or intermediate, right? Depending on your karma. So that's a crucial factor at the beginning. So phenomena don't have these. There's no particular attractiveness or unattractiveness in things, ugliness or beauty in things inherently. It depends on your karma, how they appear to you. Because of that, the pleasant or unpleasant feeling arises. If it's something that you had the karma to see as attractive, the feeling, which is in the mentions in the sutras, the main way that karma ripens on our aggregates is as feeling. So, that there will be a pleasant, if you see something attractive, an attractive person, let's say, there would be a pleasant feeling induced in your mental consciousness. Is there a pleasant feeling induced in your eye consciousness? Eye consciousness has feeling, right? When you see something attractive, Richard, does the eye consciousness have a good feeling?
I was going to say no, but then you said the eye consciousness has feelings, so yes.
But the feeling that the eye consciousness has, it derives in a different way. Say, for instance, if you stick your finger in your eye, there's an unpleasant feeling. If you put some ointment on your eye, when you have some irritation in the eye, there may be a pleasant feeling. The feeling of something being pleasant, that when you see something that's attractive, that's in the mental consciousness. It's
Right.
not feeling in the eye consciousness. So that your intuitive feeling about that is correct, I believe. Stephen, what are you thinking?
Yeah, so when it comes to karma, karma comes to fruition as the feeling. The feeling is good, or is it pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral?
Right.
But then we start talking about qualities like beautiful or ugly or valuable or desirable.
Right.
Those are happening at a different level than feeling, are they not? Like the level of discrimination?
Okay, let's leave that for a second. Let's continue this stream. So we're talking about generation of attachment. Okay, rather than abstract qualities like beauty and truth and so forth. So you observe something. Because of your individual karma, you experience it as attractive or unattractive, and as a result of that, the feeling, you discriminate that as attractive or unattractive, and as a result of that, the feeling arises, a pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral feeling. As a result of that, that's coming without any kind of your sort of mental intervention. As a result of that, your tendency to judge things, what is what do we call sulmin yinche, I think. How does Jeffrey translate that here? Oh no, that's coming. That's coming later. So there's as Stephen was saying, inappropriate attention. So that's thinking, oh, this is nice. This is very nice. It has these qualities. If I had that, I'd be really happy and so forth. That kind of inappropriate attention to the experience of the feeling is what causes the attachment to it. That's where the attachment begins. Up till then, it was just a feeling, right? You can have feelings without inappropriate attention to them, but once the inappropriate attention begins, well, what would be appropriate attention? The thought, attending to this, that this is a transitory phenomenon. This is something which is a result, this feeling is a result of my karma, and so forth and so on. That would be appropriate attention. Inappropriate attention is thinking about it as really good, exaggerating its qualities, and as a result of that, attachment arises. So in that process of talking about the generation of attachment, we haven't mentioned ignorance anywhere there, right? So there are kind of two different processes going on. One is the process in which phenomena are grasped as inherently existent by the mental consciousness due to bewilderment or delusion, however you like to translate it, basic ignorance. That's there all the time. That's what Aryadeva was referring to as this kind of an analogy to the body's sense power that pervades everything. So that's there as the basis. So let's go on and read what Lama Tsongkhapa's commentary to that is. Oh, first, Richard and Stephen have questions. Richard.
I'm assuming that inappropriate attention is generated by karma.
It could be, it's just about everything that happens to us is a result of karma. But this is, you can change that because of, say, having studied the Dharma rather than immediately going toward your, the set kind of inappropriate attention to things. Like, say, if something is unpleasant, the usual tendency is to think that this unpleasant thing is unbearable. I shouldn't be experiencing it. I don't deserve this, and so forth. And culminating in some kind of variant of anger or hatred, right? That can, or at least repulsion, or sort of might be suppressed in some way. But appropriate attention would think, this is the result of my negative karma in the past. And depending on your degree of sophistication, you might think, you might engage in the lojong, the training of the mind, thinking, I'm going to experience this for the benefit of others who are experiencing unpleasant feelings without responding with anger and so forth and so on. Stephen, what are you thinking?
I'm wondering if inappropriate attention is the mental factor of attention. And why I'm wondering that is because Jinpa uses incorrect mentation.
Right.
And Hopkins says improper mental application.
Right. Yeah, it's yiche, it's attention. So, like I say, attention can be either appropriate, proper. When I say inappropriate, you say proper or improper attention or mentation, or what was the other? How did you say Jinpa translated it as?
Incorrect mentation.
Mentation. That's not in this section. That's coming later, right? By way of exaggeration.
It's right after reference to folio 160.
Okay, so yeah, so this is coming in this next paragraph. So let's continue up to the end of so Lama Tsongkhapa's commentary now on that section Chandrakirti's commentary to Aryadeva. So it's not quoting the Madhyamakavatara. It's Chandrakirti, but it's his commentary to Aryadeva. So up to the end of the first sentence, Jimpa says, shows that delusion, this ignorance, this moha, here refers to grasping a true existence. So Jeffrey's translation makes it a little clearer what that's referring to. So he says, the first sentence, bewilderment due to being beclouded with respect to things from considering them to be true, enters into the superimposition that things have their own true identities. So that first sentence indicates, where is it, that bewilderment is a consciousness apprehending true existence. So Jeffrey's translation just puts the whole quote there rather than just the abbreviated form that, where he says up to the first sentence. The statement that attachment and so on do not operate independently or separately from delusion indicates that they function in association with delusion, not divorced of it. So they're operating in conjunction with that ignorance. So Jeffrey's translation of that phrase is the fact that desire and so forth operate non-separately, or you could say do not operate separately from bewilderment, means that they operate in association with bewilderment. They do not operate separate from it. Okay, Jimpa says, not divorced of it. Jimpa's translation says, the reason for this is presented in the passage that reads, attachment and so on, up to imputed by delusion. So you have to figure out what that is. Jeffrey puts it more, puts in the missing phrase. The reason for this is that, quote, they operate within the superimposition of features such as beauty and ugliness on just the inherent nature of things imputed by bewilderment. So what is superimposed, the beauty and ugliness that the attachment, hatred, and so forth superimpose, are superimposed on the inherent nature of things imputed by bewilderment. So that's the thing that they are imputing upon. What they're perceiving is that inherent nature, and they're imputing beauty or ugliness upon it. And Jimpa continues, since attractive and unattractive qualities are superimposed by incorrect mentation, inappropriate attention, or let's say improper attention, incorrect mentation. That means that thinking process that's you're using your attention in an improper way, or an improper way, which is in fact a cause of attachment and aversion. The passage here does not identify the mode of apprehension of attachment and aversion themselves. What's that talking about? Which is in fact a cause of attachment and aversion. The passage here does not identify the mode of apprehension of attachment and diversion. Jeffrey translates that concerning this, a consciousness superimposing attractiveness or unattractiveness, beauty or ugliness on objects is improper mental application or improper attention, which is the cause of producing the two, desire and hatred. Therefore, this passage does not indicate the mode of apprehension of the two, desire and hatred. So what is that talking about? The mode of apprehension of the two. Jimpa translates that as identified, the mode of apprehension. They're both using the mode of apprehension. So what is that talking about? What is the mode of apprehension? Does anyone know? Mikhail, do you know what the mode of apprehension means?
It's the way the object is understood or grasped at.
Right. So here, desire and hatred, or Jimpa translates attachment and aversion, they don't apprehend true existence. That's not what they're apprehending. What they're apprehending is beauty or ugliness, or something that is attractive or unattractive. They themselves don't have a mode of apprehension that's grasping to true existence. That's not their duty, so to speak. But that grasping to true existence already exists as a substratum that is causing the objects to appear to them to be truly existent. Let's continue a little bit further and then delve into that. Jimpa says, therefore, the phrase, upon the nature of things imputed by delusion, is to be understood to mean that attachment and aversion operate on the basis of superimposing intrinsically existing qualities of attractiveness and unattractiveness. Or as Jeffrey says, therefore, the very last word on page 246, and then the beginning, therefore, desire and so forth operate within the superimposition of features such as beauty and ugliness on just the inherent nature of things imputed by bewilderment. Okay, the inherent nature of things is being imputed by ignorance, right? So the attachment and so forth operate within superimposing of features such as beauty and ugliness on that inherent nature. That says that the two, attachment and hatred, desire and hatred, operate in dependence upon the superimposition of only inherently existent attractiveness or unattractiveness, superimposed by improper mental application. I think Jimpa's left out a word that, therefore, the phrase upon the nature of things imputed by delusion is to be understood to mean that attachment, aversion, and operate the basis of superimposing intrinsically existing qualities. So Jeffrey has the extra word there, only. They operate in dependence upon the superimposition of only inherently established attractiveness or unattractiveness. Maybe not completely clear yet, but it's making sense so far? Any big gaps? Doris is in the thinking mode when she has her, like, I do the same thing, something like that. So Jimpa's translation continues. This is Lama Tsong Khapa's commentary on this. The passage is not saying that it is only the true existence superimposed by delusion that constitutes the focal object of attachment and so forth, the referent object. So what does that mean? The passage is not saying that that is the that attachment and so forth, that their referent object is true existence superimposed by ignorance. That's not their focal object. Their focal object is what? Beauty or ugliness. So Jimpa says, that passage is not saying that it is only the true existence of superimposed by delusion that constitutes the focal object of attachment and so forth. That is, in the differentiation between the focus and aspect of these emotions. So between the two, when you talk about consciousnesses, you can talk about two things. We usually in low rig, we talk about mik nam. So mik means the referent or the focus, and nam means the aspect. That's the subjective side. The focus or the mikpa is the referring to the object that you're focusing on. And nam, or the aspect, refers to the subjective way that you're apprehending it. Okay, so that means, so here it says, in the differentiation between focus and aspect of these emotions, the passage is not saying that it is only the true existence superimposed by delusion that constitutes the focus and so forth. That is, in the differentiation between focus and aspect of these emotions. Jimpa continues that this is because between the two facets of the object of the two innate self-graspings, their focal object and their object in terms of apprehending aspect, their focal objects do not exist as established bases, whereas afflictions such as attachment are concomitant with delusion. Their focal object is the same as that as delusion. Okay, a little bit different.
It says do exist. The focal objects do exist as established bases.
Yeah.
Right. Their focal
do not.
objects. Did I skip something? This is because
No.
the two facets of the object between their focal objects and their objects of apprehension, their focal objects do exist as established bases. Right.
Yeah, before
Thank
you
you.
said do not.
Yes, thank you. So mistake. Their focal objects do exist as established bases. Their focal objects and their focal objects do exist. So what are their focal objects? Well, let's see. Let's read first what Jeffrey translates here. So Jimpa began that by saying this passage is not saying. So, but Jeffrey parses that differently. He puts in parentheses Chandrakirti, where he says this. Chandrakirti is not saying, is not indicating that just true establishment imputed by bewilderment is the object of observation of desire and hatred. Not just true existence imputed by bewilderment is the object of observation. From between the two, the object of observation and the subjective aspect of desire and so forth. This is because from between the two, the object of observation and the subjective aspect, the objects of observation of both innate consciousnesses apprehending self are established bases, that is to say that they are existent, whereas truly existent objects do not exist at all. And desire and so forth have the same object of observation as bewilderment, since even they are in similar association with it. They bear the 5 similarities with other consciousnesses that are present at that time. Who can Karen, what are you thinking?
No, I'm not unpacking that. I just wanted to ask if you wanted to take a break before you unpacked it.
Yeah, well, let's unpack a little first, and then we'll take a break. Does anyone want to try to unpack what that's talking about? Richard's not volunteering. Okay. Mikhail?
I think I'm just understanding that the afflictions have as a focal object the same as ignorance. So their focal object is true existence.
Is it?
That's
Is that right? What do you think, Stephen? You're giving the negatory.
Well, yeah, the negatory. That's-
I see that in some cop shows when they're saying negatory.
True existence would be the apprehended object of ignorance.
and afflictions. What about afflictions? Their focal object.
Their focal object would be the same as what ignorance is observing, whatever the phenomenon is, you know, a mug.
So ignorance is focal object is true existence. So they would have the same.
Is its focal object ignorance?
No. Sorry. False. Right. It's the mere thing.
And so the apprehended aspect of the afflictions would be, for example, truly existent beauty. That's where I'm confused, Venerable George. Or is it just the object that's being observed?
Yeah, a little bit difficult. Paul, what do you think?
Right. So what he's saying is that it can't be just true establishment because truly existing objects don't exist, right?
And so what would be the contradiction there? Existent objects don't exist, so that they couldn't be the focal object of what? They couldn't be the mikvah, the referent object of
yeah, either ignorance or attachment, right? Is that right? Let me think.
So the referent of, as Stephen was coming to the conclusion, or Mikhail was coming to the conclusion, the referent object, or the focus, as Jimpa translates, the referent of ignorance that's grasping the, let's say, truly existent person or truly existent object, is not the true existence. The referent object is the mere object, merely imputed object, or let's say in the case
established base, basically, right?
Which is an established base. And the view of the transitory collection that's grasping at a truly existent I, its referent object is the merely imputed I. Its focus is the merely imputed I, and its aspect is misapprehending that to be truly existent. That's the aspect of it. That's the subjective side. The objective side is referring to the the conventional I, the merely imputed I. Is that referent, the fact that it's referring to that, is that its referent object? Here, the difference between referent and referent object. What is the mental image of true existence that's appearing to that mind? Is that called its referent object?
No, the mental image that's appearing would just be the subjective aspect.
No, that's the appearing object. And so here what we've got. We've got the appearing object. That's the appearance of true existence. Let's talk about the self. The appearance of true existence. The referent object, what it's referring to, is actually the nominally imputed, merely imputed I, the conventional existent I. That's the referent object. The appearing object is the appearance of true existence, that the mental image. The subjective aspect is agreeing with that mental image and is grasping it to be truly existent, is grasping at the merely imputed I to be truly existent.
Sorry, we were reading Dharmakirti last week, where subjective aspect means something different.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so Jeffrey is saying, let's go back here. Chandrakirti is not indicating that just true establishment, or how did you put it? It looks like it's to be taken a little bit differently. It almost sounds that if you take here, is not indicating that just true establishment is the object of observation. It's not the object of observation at all. So I think both authors are using what was it, samshik, I think it is in the Tibetan.
Yeah, so it's not just true establishment, but true establishment itself or something like that.
Yeah, alone or something. Yeah, it's something different. It's not indicating that. Let's leave out the word just. It's not indicating that true establishment imputed by bewilderment is the object of observation. Between the two, the objects of observation and the subjective aspect of desire and so forth. This is because from between the two, the object of observation and the subjective aspect, the object of observation of both innate consciousnesses apprehending self are established bases. That is, the merely existent phenomena. That is, they are existent, whereas truly established phenomena, objects do not exist at all. And desire and so forth have the same object of observation as bewilderment, since even they are in similar association with it. So their objects of observation are the merely imputed things, not the truly existent things that are the appearing objects. Okay, let's chew on that a couple minutes while we take a break. So I'll leave my my audio on to listen to any of you who wanted to sort of go into more detail about that. If you're not interested in a cup of coffee or hearing to. Okay, we'll take another break after a second. So as soon as you refer to the merely existent I, it is appearing to you immediately as being inherently existent. And that's the appearing object in your mental consciousness. So you've got the referent object out there that is existent, that's merely existent I, merely imputed I. It's appearing to you as being as being inherently existent. The subjective aspect back here in your mind is to apprehend that appearance, to accede to, agree with, to grasp to that appearance as being true. So the subjective aspect is grasping it to be truly existent, that ignorance. Does that help, Snehi?
Yes, it's because now it feels like, there is a referent object out there, which is merely imputed, but somehow when it appears to me, it gets corrupted and it appears like it's truly existent. And I agree, yeah, it's truly existent. And then on the basis of that, then I project qualities of, oh, it's really attractive, not attractive.
No.
I hate it. No.
Then the reason that you impute those qualities is due to the improper attention, which is a subsidiary thing. See, if you didn't have the improper attention,
then the
attention, there would just be that appearance of true existence, and you would be grasping to it. When we're talking about attachment, then you're adding another factor that's because of the inappropriate attention, you are superimposing these qualities of beauty and attachment upon it that are not really there. Well, let's say things appear to you due to your karma as being attractive or unattractive. That's okay. that they're pleasant or unpleasant taste, or pleasant or unpleasant sound, or pleasant or unpleasant smell, and so forth. That's not the problem. But when your mind reacts to that, like, ooh, I don't like this smell. I want to get away from here. What's causing that smell? Did someone pass gas? What's the reason for this? Then you start entering into generating, let's say, aversion of some kind, various variants of hatred and anger. So that's a separate process, but that is done on the basis of these phenomena, which are already understood by your mind, misunderstood to be truly existent.
Okay. So it sounds like the appearance of true existence to my mind in and of itself is not a problem. The feeling of, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral itself is not the problem. The inappropriate attention, which then starts to superimpose, it's so attractive, I love it, I need to have it, I want it, that's the problem.
Yes, and likewise with the appearance of true existence, as you said, that's not basically a problem. Lama Yeshe used to say in the teachings on Tantra, the appearance of true existence is not the problem so much. It's your belief in the appearance, because the bodhisattvas who have realized emptiness don't believe that appearance, and those on the pure grounds who have no ignorance at all have no grasping to that as being true. So the appearance is not so much the problem. Even the 10th level bodhisattvas have the appearance of true existence. Nadine, you have a doubt.
Thank you very much, George. I was thinking the perception or conception of beauty must also work without ignorance, because, for example, when offering a mandala and thinking of all the beauty of the whole world, it must be something different there, isn't it?
Yeah, so we haven't talked about, well, did the word beauty come here? Yeah, that things are attractive or unattractive, beautiful or ugly. That can come about because of inappropriate attention, or there can be just appropriate attention that just recognizes that this is pleasant, that this is categorized as beauty, like, say, for instance, offering a pure realm and so forth to the Buddhas. So there's a differentiation there of the inappropriate attention is when you're on the basis of that which you might call beautiful, you then begin to think that it is really, really nice. Like the classic example, I think one of my Tibetan teachers, Ngor Tartse Tulku, who was teaching us Tibetan at one time at Manjushri Institute, said that the monks would refer to beautiful girls as dakinis, right? Say, oh, did you see that beautiful dakini? Or a man would say, or a woman would think, did you see that beautiful daka, that beautiful guy, that handsome guy? Wow, isn't that nice? That's inappropriate attention, whereas appropriate attention would be to recognize that there's something beautiful there that is a result of what you perceive as beauty, as pleasant, as a result of your virtuous karma, and for your mind to remind yourself not to dwell on that because you're using up your store of virtuous karma in generating attachment like that. Mikhail, what do you think?
Yeah, just to be sure, the inappropriate attention does not create the attractiveness or ugliness. You would first have a feeling due to your karma, and inappropriate attention.
Even one step before that, things appear to you, first of all, due to your karma and to your individual and group karma, our collective karma. Then the discrimination of that, the ripening of that as being attractive or unattractive is also your individual karma, right? There's the mental factor discrimination that when we talk about mind and mental factors, we always said that discrimination precedes feeling, there's a discrimination of something being attractive or unattractive. And as a result of that, you could almost leave that step out. As a result of that, there's a feeling, pleasant or unpleasant feeling or neutral feeling, if it's not perceived as attractive or unattractive, it's just neutral. That's all before the inappropriate attention.
Yeah, and inappropriate attention grasps that feeling and exaggerates it and makes it true.
It apprehends that feeling, and that, exactly, and then it exaggerates it in various ways, that it's really good or it's really bad, and so forth. And as a result of that, when you get to the point where I want to have that, that's attachment. Or I've got to get rid of that. This is bad smell. I've got to go to the other room. That's repulsion, or I've got to get rid of this terrible situation, this guy. I've got to get rid of them. That can lead to anger and hatred and striking out and hitting them and so forth.
So the affliction really induces action, while not the inappropriate attention.
Say again?
It's not real affliction attachment really generates intention or the motivation or
the karma,
karma, and not inappropriate attention. Inappropriate attention is just
it's a prelude, is leading up to that. It's the cause of that attachment or aversion and so forth.
Thank you.
Yeah. Making sense? John.
Yeah, it is making sense, but I think I'm being slow to pick up something that I know you've already maybe just explained, but it's a little hard to follow for me. The ascension to true existence, or the thing appearing to you with true existence, that is actually where does that happen sequentially when something due to my karma appears to me? Does it immediately, the ripening of my karma, something appears to me through discrimination, then it is established as pleasant or unpleasant, then that's that feeling. At that point, from the very first appearance to me, because of ripening of karma, it is already appearing to me as truly existing. Is it not?
You can't see here because you have a small screen there. So
no, I can see.
No,
I do see that.
You do see that. So the appearance of true existence is not due to karma. What's it due to?
It's due to marikpa. It's due to ignorance.
No, Rachel, what's the appearance of true existence due to?
I don't know what I was telling John to not drive looking at the screen.
John is in the car.
I have no idea what you're asking.
Yeah, come on, John. Don't look at the screen at my. So here,
right.
What Paul, what's the cause of the appearance of true existence? Where does the appearance of true existence come from? Does it come from karma?
So the appearance of true existence.
I didn't think
come from
so
ignorance.
It comes from,
No,
it comes from
the imprint of ignorance. It's
of ignorance.
It's one of the obstructions to omniscience. So it doesn't come from karma.
Right.
It's not due to your karma that things appear to be truly existent, because the arhats have abandoned all karma and so forth to a certain extent. That's another discussion. The appearance of true existence is, as soon as you apprehend something, it appears to you to be, when you apprehend something, as soon as you label something, you think tree, it appears that there's a tree appearing from its own side, and that is due to the imprints of delusion. It's not due to karma. Okay,
right,
so
right.
That's
actually,
go on.
I believe. Yeah, I'm sorry, because I asked it in a very imprecise way, I think, but that's I think what I was, that is confirming what I think what I was asking is that as soon as something is appearing to you, it already appears as existing, as being truly established.
Right. As inherently established, inherently existent, truly existent, and so forth.
Intrinsically, right. But that is not because of, that's not because of karma.
That's not because of karma.
No,
What then, that appearance then, due to your karma, it appears to you as being attractive or unattractive, pleasant or unpleasant. Unattractive, say attractive and unattractive is on the level of discrimination, and then immediately the feeling of being pleasant or unpleasant arise. Those arise due to karma. Then due to inappropriate attention, that even then that's okay. As Snehi was getting at earlier, it's just like even the appearance of true existence is not so much the problem, not the appearance of beauty or ugliness is not the problem. It's your inappropriately attending to it. If you inappropriately attend to it, then you can generate attachment for those things that are pleasant, and repulsion and the variance of anger and so forth toward things that are unpleasant. That's due to inappropriate attention. So these two things are intertwined. Here it's not emphasizing so much at this point that intertwining of these two processes. One is that they're appearing to be truly existent, and you're assenting to that, you're grasping to that. But that is the basis for imputing upon those qualities that are already assumed by your mind to be truly existent. You're imputing beauty and ugliness upon them.
And then the duchak, the attachment, is the end of that process of this twofold process.
Right. Attachment or hatred, or even just bewilderment is coming up in a minute. Let's continue on. Okay.
Is there a reason they left out the neutral versus just the attachment and anger?
Just because it's not as dynamic. Generally, the neutral things they do have a result too, because you're say you're ignoring them. You do generate again moha, but in the Hinayana sense of that as meaning just not interest one way or the other, sort of like a neutral kind of stance toward those objects. Someone brings before you, I don't know, what would they bring before you?
Miso soup.
Miso soup, that could generate attachment or repulsion, depending on someone. Just sort of like just an empty plate. I don't know. Let's continue a little bit. So in Chimpa's translation, the last sentence was, and since afflictions such as attachment are concomitant with delusion, their focal object is the same as that of delusion. That means the referent object, the focal object of delusion or bewilderment, ignorance, is the conventionally existent thing, and that's the focal object of attachment and so forth. This means, in reading Jimpa's translation, this means attachment and aversion are defined by their aspects of attraction toward an object and repulsion from an object, induced by the two types of incorrect mentation. That means, that which incorrectly thinks it's attractive and inappropriately exaggerates its repulsiveness, which is the two types of incorrect mentation, inappropriate attention. So, therefore, states of mind with aspects of wanting and not wanting, desiring or not desiring, induced by grasping at persons as self-sufficient substantial realities alone. And this, in this case, Jimpa's translation of alone is better than Jeffrey's translation, which we'll read in a minute. Therefore, states of mind with aspects of desire or not desiring, induced by grasping at persons as self-sufficient substantial realities alone, is not defined here as attachment and aversion. This is just sort of like a parenthetical phrase. There, just sort of like we'll see in a moment. So sort of like it's not totally germane to the argument that we're talking about. Therefore, the way in which attachment and aversion are defined is also quite different here. So Jeffrey, how does Jeffrey translate that here? Let me get back my distance glasses. Okay. Hence, reading Jeffrey on page 247, it's in the third paragraph, a couple of lines down. Hence, in the consequent school, in the Prasangika, mere consciousnesses that are induced by the apprehension of a person as substantially existent in the sense of being self-sufficient and that have the aspects of desiring or not desiring are not posited as encompassing all desire and hatred. Jimpa says those things alone are not, and here Jeffrey's translating it a different way, encompassing all desire and hatred. So in other words, there are delusions that arise from grasping to a self-supporting, substantially existent person. There are delusions, attachment, hatred, and so forth, but they are not the main attachment and anger and so forth. They are abandoned, grasping the self-supporting, substantially existent person. Does that have innate forms also? Richard, do you know? Grasping a self-supporting, substantially existent person?
I'm not sure. I'm having a lot of difficulty following even the most basic aspects of this passage.
Okay. You're not the only one. You're not the only one.
You know, this is
how many people agree with Richard?
Yeah.
I think there would be many hands up here. Yeah. So yeah, let me just say that in grasping to self-supporting, substantially existent person does have innate forms. So it does exist after the path of seeing to some. So there are delusions, but they alone are not, as the Hinayana would say, it's not those alone that are attachment and hatred. They form a small subset of that. Let's go back and address Richard's qualms about not quite seeing the point here. See if you can you enunciate, Richard, what some doubts are?
I read this a couple of times before before class, and the best that I can understand it is that that there seems to be more going on in what is it? There just seems to be a little bit more going on with attachment and
aversion,
repulsion than merely the self-sufficient, independent
Yeah,
part
right.
of it.
Absolutely. You're right. Absolutely.
And
So
that additional thing would be the inherent existence.
that's not the important thing about uh the generation of, well, without the apprehension of true existence, inherent existence, um, you wouldn't be generating aversion and attachment.
Right.
Because you would not be inappropriately attending to them as in that way. It's the inappropriate attention that is going in, say, for instance, as we've gone through a couple of times here, the object appears to you as it appears to you as being inherently existent. That's not so much a problem, other than the fact that you grasp to it that way. Then it appears to you as being attractive or unattractive. This is due to your karma. The appearance of it being inherently existent is due to the imprints of delusion, of ignorance in the past. That's everyone, animals, everyone, even 10th level bodhisattvas, everything appears in post-meditation to be inherently existent. But they also appear to you as being attractive or unattractive. I think that also the arhats and the 10th level bodhisattvas, things appear to them as being pleasant, say attractive or unattractive, but immediately then that would be pleasant or unpleasant. Like for instance, the soup that they eat or the gruel, the morning meal they have or whatever, that is experienced as attractive or unattractive, as pleasant or unpleasant. That's the feeling after the discrimination of being attractive or unattractive. That's okay. That's no problem. You could say, this is not pleasant. If someone asks you, do you like that? Or you say, yeah, is that good? You say, this is not so good. That's not a problem. You can say that. But when your mind exaggerates that, as a result of that experience, due to inappropriate attention or inappropriate mentation or improper mentation, thinking about it, thinking, this is crap. I don't want this. Take this away. Throw this in the garbage. I'm, tossing it off the table or whatever, kind of actions can happen in the restaurant. You ever see that sometime in the restaurant? People get to say, call the waiter over and say, this is terrible. Take this away. This is like, it could be, if it didn't generate hatred so that you were striking out like that, it could be proper saying, this doesn't taste proper. Could you ask the chef to do something? Then you don't get into improper mentation or inappropriate attention, so you don't generate hatred and anger and so forth. Does that help a little bit, Richard?
I understand that point.
Okay.
What I don't understand is the point Tsong Khapa is making. He says, for example, he says, attachment and aversion are not defined as, and then he describes what they're not defined as, but where does he define what attachment and aversion are? This is my problem with the whole passage. It just doesn't, it just seems very, very obscure to me. The basic point that you just described is very clear. The passage.
Okay. So I'm reading in, I don't know where you said I'm reading, at this point, I'm reading, this means that attachment and aversion are defined by their aspects of attraction toward an object and repulsion from an object induced by the two types of incorrect mentation. Where did you see attachment and aversion are not defined? Is that coming earlier?
No, that's later. So states of mind with aspects of wanting or not wanting induced by grasping at persons as self-sufficient, substantial realities alone is not defined here as attachment and aversion.
Okay, so that's what I
I'm
was
not
saying.
sure I understand the contrast.
Okay, so
Remember the earlier one.
just take that out, that paragraph out. That's talking about the attachment and aversion that are a result of grasping to a substantially self-supporting, substantially existent person. States of mind with aspects of wanting or not wanting induced by grasping at persons as self-sufficient, substantial realities alone, or as Jeffrey says, that does not encompass all. Jimpa says that is not defined here as attachment and aversion, or as Jeffrey says, that is not posited as encompassing all desire and hatred. So this is going back to the Hinayana view. All desire, all attachment and hatred would be a result of grasping to the person as being self-supporting, substantially existent. So their point of view is that the Hinayana point of view is if you eliminate that ignorance, grasping to self-supporting, substantially existent person, you would not have attachment and hatred any longer. But the Mahayana has said, no, there's a subtler kind of grasping to inherent existence. That's the main cause of attachment and hatred. Just grasp the states of mind with aspects of desiring or not desiring something induced by grasping at persons as self-supporting, substantially existent alone. And just that by itself is not all of the, it's not indicated here as attachment and aversion. That's the point of that.
Got it. Okay. All right,
Okay.
that's a little bit clearer.
Yeah, okay. All right, we're getting somewhere. So
Thanks for your patience.
Oh, no, but obviously I have the same doubts, so it's great that we can get them cleared up a little bit. So reading further in Jima's text, furthermore, this is quoting from the statement earlier, from the commentary by Chandrakirti. So he's got it in quotations. Furthermore, they are contingent on delusion, or as Jeffrey says, that desire and hatred. Here's a bracket there. Where's the, oh yeah, so yeah, that desire and hatred also depend on bewilderment, depend on, or contingent on, Jimpa says contingent on delusion. So Jeffrey says that desire and hatred also depend upon bewilderment, means that desire and so forth are induced by bewilderment that apprehends objects to be established by way of their own character and that precedes them. Or Jimpa says, furthermore, they are contingent on delusion. This is quoting Chandrakirti commentary, right? Means that it is through the initial delusion of grasping at things as existing by way of their own characteristics that attachment and aversion are brought forth. Or as Jeffrey says, that precedes them. So it's the grasping at true existence that precedes them that induces attachment and hatred. How do they induce attachment and hatred? John, would you like to make a stab?
How do they induce attachment and hatred?
Yeah, so it says that they come before, how does Jimpa say? Is through the initial delusion of grasping at things. So the ignorance that grasp at things as existing by way of their own characteristics. Put it in shorter words. It is through the initial ignorance that grasps at things as being inherently existent that attachment and aversion are brought forth. So that that grasping to inherent existence, to true existence, precedes the generation of attachment and hatred. How does it do
Yes.
that? How does it induce that?
How does it induce it? I think I'm missing the context of the how. How
So in other
by
words,
by assenting to its appearance as inherently existent, then the cascade of problems with the following feeling of pleasant or unpleasant, then the actual feeling of desire, etc., resulting eventually in attachment or hatred.
So yeah, a little
Is
bit. So it's the things appear to be attractive or unattractive inherently. That's not so much the problem. That then that there seems to be an inherently existent feeling, pleasant or unpleasant feeling. That's also enters into it. It's not so much a problem. It's mainly at the point of inappropriate attention when you start to get into that, the fact that it seems to be an inherently existent feeling, that you start to generate the causes of attachment and hatred.
So is it?
Go on.
I'm sorry. So can I, just to clarify, is it, so there are, in a sense, multiple instances of, where, because delusion is shot through the entire experience, the appearance initially is mistaken to exist independently and substantially. The feeling that generates from that is assented to as
independently and substantially is not here. We're talking about the inherent, the grasping to true existence, the grasping to inherent existence, not to the substantial existence.
Okay.
So what do you think?
Grasping to true existence.
Well, Venerable Judge, I'm wondering about this inappropriate attention and a little bit more of what that is. Like, if we're talking about memory of Dharma and pulling in Dharma being something that counteracts it, and that's the example of appropriate attention. What is inappropriate attention in terms of its function? Because if you're asking how that's inducing the next step, it's
Right.
sort of like we're not getting into the nitty-gritty of what that actually is.
So we've talked about it in other contexts. Say inappropriate attention thinking. Let's talk about something that has been apprehended, discriminated as attractive, and has been felt, experienced as pleasant. Okay, up till then, even the bodhisattvas, the Arya bodhisattvas and the 10th level bodhisattvas all can have that, and the arhats can have that. This is pleasant, this is attractive, this is unattractive. I'd rather have this than that. But inappropriate attention is when you start to exaggerate those qualities. It's the factor of exaggeration. Like, man, this is really good. Get me some more. I've got to stockpile this. I need a stash of this. From my earlier terminology, that's when, and in various ways, this is, if I had this, I'd always be happy. You feel something pleasant now. If I had that boyfriend or girlfriend, I'd always be happy. If I had that food, I'd always be happy. If I had this wealth, it would be reliable. When we talk about the defects of samsaric perfections, things that are pleasant, to recognize that they're unreliable. If I had this, I could rely on this. If I had this money, that would be reliable source of my happiness. All of these kinds of exaggerations, and there are many others, they fall under the category of inappropriate attention. So appropriate attention would be to see that they are not reliable. These are not reliable. They won't constantly bring you pleasure because, in fact, even now you are not experiencing, remembering the Dharma, even this is not real happiness. This is just diminishing of one suffering, replacing it with another. And while the bigger suffering is going on, I'm experiencing it as pleasant, right? These are appropriate attentions. The opposites of those would be inappropriate attention. Stephen,
So how is that?
Go on, Rachel.
Sorry. How is that not driven by the misapprehension of true existence of the person? I mean, it sounds a lot like it's still driven by that.
It is still, it said, it actually said, they are contingent on delusion, means that is through the initial ignorance, grasping at inherent existence, that attachment and aversion are brought forth. And the question was, how are they brought forth through that initial thing? What I'm trying to say is there are various points, the appearance of being attractive, being inherently attractive, the experience of being pleasant, apprehending that as being inherently pleasant. Even then, that's not so much the problem. The attachment and aversion are mainly generated through the inappropriate attention level. Once you've gotten to that point thinking, oh yeah, this is really good. If I had this, I'd always be happy, and so forth. This is really bad. If I got rid of this, I don't deserve this, and so forth. All of these inappropriate ways of attending to the appearances are due to the grasping to true existence that preceded them. It's really important to think about this. It's a complicated process, and as Richard pointed out, there's a lot of uncertainty here in the words. Stephen, what are you thinking?
Thanks, Venerable George. I'm wondering if it's the mental factor of intention that drives inappropriate attention. So here it says it has the function of engaging the mind in virtue, non-virtue, or the unspecified.
That's coming further?
No, I'm sorry. This is just from the definition of the mental factor of intention. And it goes on to say, this is said to be the principle among all mental factors. It is taught that any mind or mental factor engages an object due to the power of this mental factor. For example, just as iron is helplessly drawn by a magnet, the mind helplessly engages an object due to this mental factor intention. And that seems to me is like the example you gave with, someone seeing an attractive person and whether they engage in virtue by viewing them as the fruition of their own good karma, or non-virtue by just liking their qualities and wanting to.
So the intention comes about in this process of inappropriate attention. Due to the inappropriate attention, the culmination of the inappropriate attention is the generation of the intention. I must get that. That's where the intention comes about. So you can play this scenario in your own mind. I think it's very worthwhile to think about it as you're, just sitting in your chair. How do these things arise? They appear. That's not a problem. So that, to your senses, they appear to be, let's say, a lot of things just appear to be neutral. Like if I look out my window, I see the trees. At first, it's just neutral. If at a certain time of year they look pretty, or right now when they look kind of bare, maybe they look unattractive. At a certain time of year, when they're green and vibrant, maybe there's some flowers, and then they look attractive. As a result of that, you have the feeling of you have pleasant or unpleasant feelings. Your mind perceives those feelings as being inherently existent. Even that's not so much a problem. That's not generating yet attachment or aversion or bewilderment. It's when, due to inappropriate attention, you think about this beauty. Maybe you'd like to immortalize the trees having the green leaves. So, so you would, if I could see this all the time, I would be happy. You start to generate attachment to that appearance, or to, let's say, to the appearance of another person, or to the status of your job. You start to think, if I always had this status, I'd be set, I wouldn't have to worry. So that's what it's at that point when you think, when the intention arises, I want to get this. That's when attachment arises, or when the intention arises that I want to get rid of this repulsive, unattractive, unpleasant thing. That's when the anger or repulsion arises. So you're right. So the intention is implicitly included in this evolution of the delusions. It's so worthwhile for you to think about that. And to analyze that, and then to go back over this discussion, and then you can see what Lama Tsongkhapa is saying here. Let me just read a little bit further so we have a point of starting next time. So the next, in Jinpa's translation, wait, let's just see it. Jinpa's note 442, what did he say here? Tsongkhapa is alluding to stanza 611 from the 400 stanzas. If one sees dependent origination, then delusion will arise no more. Therefore, with all one's energy, one should engage in the discourse on this. So that was at the end of that sentence. Oh yeah, we didn't get that far. Sorry, we didn't get that far. The analogy of body faculty and its connection to the body illustrates that just as there is no support for the other four sense faculties that is discrete from the body. So there's no support for the I consciousness, which is without the body consciousness there. There's no support for the I consciousness. There's no I faculty that is devoid of body faculty. There's no ear faculty that is devoid of body faculty, and so forth. Just in that way, similarly, all the afflictions operate with ignorance, with delusion as their support, and are not divorced from delusion, are not divorced from ignorance. Because of this, all the afflictions will become undone if ignorance is destroyed, if delusion is destroyed. That's the whole point of the argument. If you could understand this process and think, yeah, if I can get rid of ignorance, then all of these others will not arise. Thus, then you're motivated to search for the wisdom that realizes emptiness. Thus, Aryadeva says, we should revere the discourse on dependent origination in terms of the emptiness of intrinsic existence, which is its antidote. So that's where Jinpa is quoting that stanza from the 400. So Jeffrey Hopkins translates it, therefore, let's see, the example from the 400 stanzas quoted above, that the body sense power pervades the body, means that just as the other four sense powers do not have a base posited separately from the body sense power, they're all merged together. Therefore, so all other afflictive emotions operate in dependence upon bewilderment, in dependence upon ignorance, and operate without being separated from it. They can't operate if they're separated from it, from ignorance. They can't engage if there's no grasping to true existence. Therefore, all afflictive emotions are overcome through just overcoming bewilderment, ignorance, and hence it is said in Aryadevas, that stands, I think, 611 in Aryadevas 400, since it is said that one should be intent on just discourse about its antidote, teachings about its antidote, dependent arising, the emptiness of inherent existence. So that's what Aryadeva was saying in that famous verse. So give up other pursuits, just look at teachings about emptiness and understand it, because once you've understood that and are actualizing that, you can start to cause the delusions will no longer have a grasp on you. Okay, and then just so this is for next time. Just reading ahead. This grasping a true existence of things. I'm reading Jimpa again. This grasping a true existence of things is described in Nagarjuna's 70 stanzas on emptiness. Excuse me. Is described in the 70 stanzas of emptiness as the ignorance that is the root of cyclic existence. So Nagarjuna is usually talking about the ignorance that grasps the true existence as the root of cyclic existence. Chandrakirti says it's the view of the perishable collection that's the root of the cyclic existence, but there's no contradiction between that. So there's the root of cyclic existence. And the 60 verses of reasoning, is a text also written by Nagarjuna, says that, quote, having found a locus, not locust, having found a locus, one is caught by the twisting snake of the afflictions. Those whose minds have no locus will not be snared by such a snake. I think Jeffrey Hopkins' translation of that verse, what is that verse? Verse 64 in the, is that right? 60 stanzas? How could it be stanza 64?
I think it's verse 51, Venerable George.
Verse 51. Jump in note A on, that's talking about this, another one, the 70. In the 70 stanzas. No, this is in the 70 stanzas. This is verse 64. If any base, that is, and he has in brackets, that is an inherently existent object, is found, one is seized by the winding snake of the afflictive emotions, of the afflictions. Jimpa also says, having found a locus, having found a base, an inherently existent object, upon that one is seized by the winding snake of the afflictions. One is caught by the twisting snake of the afflictions. Whoever's mind is without such a base, Jimpa says, those whose minds have no locus, have no sort of basis, of focal object of inherently existent object, or appearing object of the inherently existent object. Whoever's mind is without such a base is not seized by the afflictions. Thus it says that if one finds any locus as the focus of the objectification for grasping a true existence, one will then be snared by the snake of afflictions. Okay, that's where we're going to start next time. Wow. We're making some headway. What do you think? I think today's discussion about the evolution of the delusions is something you should spend some time on. Two different things that are intertwined: the grasping at true existence and the evolution of the delusions due to their appearance as being attractive and pleasant, and inappropriately attending to that, giving rise to the delusions. Very, very important. And then to as a result of that, to more and more recognize what I've got to do is realize emptiness. That's any other temporary antidote to the delusions, helpful, but they won't eliminate the delusions without realizing emptiness. Okay. Any last thoughts before we end?
Please keep teaching us like this, Venerable George.
In your dreams, okay. Yeah, I'll see if I can appear in your dreams, Rachel. I can't make any guarantee. It's up to you.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is just so practical and hands-on. This is great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. So I'm glad you're enjoying. So let's dedicate the virtues that we've created. So rather than saying merits, because in the prayer here it says gewa di. Gewa just means virtues. So that includes both the virtues of the accumulation of merit and the accumulation of wisdom. So at the beginning, we tried to motivate with the intention to listen to the teachings for the benefit of sentient beings in order to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of sentient beings and to set them into that state. Due to these virtues, may I quickly become a Guru Buddha. I'm paraphrasing the English translation here because it's not exactly in accordance with the Tibetan. When it says Lama Sangye Drupgyurne, that means may I become rather than may I attain the state of. You could loosely translate it that way. Due to these virtues, may I quickly become a Guru Buddha and lead migrators without exception into that very state. And then a prayer, which can be thought of as a dedication here. May the supreme precious bodhicitta that has not arisen in my mind stream nor in the mind stream of others arise and grow, and may that which has arisen in my mind stream and the mind streams of others not diminish, but increase more and more as a result of these virtues. You can think of this as a dedication. And then the prayer for the quick recovery, praying for the quick return of the emanation of Lama Zopa Rinpoche, peerless teacher and assembly of bodhisattvas, Shravakas, Pratika Buddhas, conqueror Losang Drakpa, meaning Lama Tsong Khapa, who's residing in Tushita heaven, supposedly, the spiritual father to his two sons, Gyaltsab and Gedrup, together with your lineage, all the objects of refuge of the infinite realms, please bestow here and now the virtue and goodness to accomplish this prayer. In upholding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable Venerable Guru Lama Zopa, to you I make this request. You, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, while striving exclusively for both the welfare of the conqueror's teachings and for mother sentient beings, you suddenly departed to peace. At that moment, I was bereft of hope. I lost hope. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truths of the oceanic blessings of the three jewels and the great waves of bodhicitta of the bodhisattvas, may the smile of a new reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for us fortunate disciples. And then finally, for all our teachers, you who are the eyes for my viewing of all the infinite scriptures, supreme gateways for the fortunate ones traveling to liberation, engaging with skillful means moved by mercy, illuminating spiritual friends. And again, this can be made into a dedication. Please live long and stable lives. So thank you for your patience and good questions. Read ahead. And also on Monday in discussion group, we'll also talk about the question that Mikhail raised about a teaching that Ganden Tipa asks, taught in a teaching at Vajrayogini Institute about whether ignorance, what was it? Ignorance could be a mind or a mental factor, both. Some other questions about this and more discussion about the view of the transitory collection of self, me and mine. All of this will be discussed on discussion group on Monday. Look forward to seeing you then. Take care.
Thank you,
Thanks
Venerable
for being
George.
here.
Thank you, Venerable George.
Be good.
Thank you.
Thank you.